talk about. And I would remind people, however, that it was not the Palestinians in Gaza who attacked Israel. Gaza was occupied by Egypt. And if you went through Gaza, you saw the abysmal conditions. Nor was Israel attacked by the people in the West Bank. That was occupied by Jordan. And then a little portion was occupied by Syria. And somehow we have demonized the Palestinians. The people in Gaza were people who were living in Israel, that area. They had their own nationalist ambitions. They were promised a land, the famous two-state solution, which we talk about. And this idea that somehow you have a moral basis for fixing on the Palestinians all of the problems of anti-Semitism, the persecution of Jews, the instability of the Middle East, and the attacks on Israel is horrible. It is just wrong. And I think that progressives have got to take seriously their obligation to help the Israelis come to their senses. And I have followed this issue a long time. I consider myself, dare I say it, I'll probably lose all my friends, if being a Zionist means you believe the state of Israel should be allowed to exist and within the boundaries of the before the Six-Day War and should be secure and accepted and have normal relations, then I'm a Zionist. Okay? I don't doubt that, you know? I think that's a moral position. But if you tell me that I'm a self-hating Jew because I don't want to bomb children and I don't want to bomb innocent civilians who are being kept in an outdoor prison camp, which is what Gaza is, no. You believe in apartheid, you believe in racism, and I'm not with you. Period. Now, I'm not going to go on, but we're allowed to have our disagreements. And I took Henry's challenge, let's debate. And my argument is not trying to silence people who have a different position at all. The publisher of Truthdig, her sister lives in an area in Israel which is rocketed. Okay? We don't have a Palestinian writer. Most of the people on Truthdig who write critically about Israel happen to be Jewish. And they're not self-hating Jews. They're very proud Jews, and they think that there has to be a moral component to that. You know, I must say, by the way, you know, as a kid, until now, when I go to a Seder, I wonder, why did we welcome God drowning their firstborn? Did anybody ever ask that question? We're allowed to ask those questions. We're not religious fanatics. We're allowed to challenge commandments of that sort. And so I would argue that it's wonderful that a group, I've spoken to progressive Democrats many times. I know there are different points of view. I don't want to see anybody tossed out or anybody denied. And I want to respect people for the great work they've done, but I want open debate. And when the United States Congress tells me we can't debate the policy of another government, when I think we have the right to debate the policy of our own government. That's after all how we got it. If I can condemn the United States for what it's done, why can't I condemn Israel? It has a strong military, has an enormously powerful economy. They're not so vulnerable. I think they have to be protected, but we have to have free, open discussion about this and not be intimidated. Now, I want to take a couple other shots at Democrats as long as I'm here. I happen to really like our crop outside. I mean, you know, Henry's replacement is a guy that I was just impressed as hell because one of my little local battles lately, I joined with a lot of people here trying to save the Paul Conrad sculpture. And Ted Wu was one of the people very early on who defended keeping that sculpture, defended not having it destroyed, stood up, and so I was thrilled. I'm going to get to Sheila. So why don't you say something about Sheila? Okay. My wife wants me to tell you that there's probably no human being in politics that I respect more than Sheila Kuehl. And we've had our disagreements. Okay, but I know, and by the way, I've had disagreements with Zev Yaroslavsky, and I knew him before he was elected to anything, and so what? I think he's a great guy, and he's really tried to do terrific things. But Sheila Kuehl, I am sickened by the idea that she can't just walk in and have that seat. It really pisses me off, you know? And so if folks here can do anything at all to help her, do more than they're doing, we should do it. She is just a battler, and she does it without self-pity. She does it without victimization of herself. She's been the great battler on gay issues, obviously, in the state, but on every other issue. And you know, so I'll throw that. But now and so we have a good crop here. And by the way, my wife's doing a book right now on California, and I cause a lot of trouble at the dinner table with everybody. I happen to like The Second Coming of Jerry. I think Jerry Brown is doing a very good job in the state. Again, we have our differences. I knew him when he was an undergraduate at Berkeley and so forth, but I think Jerry Brown is showing a model for the country. I don't want to steal the idea of your book, but it's the un-Texas model. It's the un-Kansas model, and I think we should be really quite happy that we have a Democratic governor of this blue state who is a progressive. So my purpose here now is not to piss on Democrats, and you know, I have great respect for Ralph Nader. But I debated Ralph Nader on a nation tour on the very question that was raised before. And I am also a sucker for the lesser evil. My wife maxed out supporting Obama, you know, and then I, like a schmuck, was speaking down at the ACLU, and a bundler told me, no, it's still in trouble, and that was what, the night before, and I write a check for more money than I had in the bank so I could get a goddamn T-shirt, which I still have. Okay, so I understand the lesser evil argument. I understand, you know, how politics really works, but I do want to make a couple of points here to put a marker down. And I think War and Peace is an important one, really important. And I don't want to kid about that. We've been lied to about terrorism and our security up the gazoos. It's all bullshit, you know. We are the ones who created this Muslim fanaticism in Afghanistan. We supported the Mujahideen. Zbigniew Brzezinski, a guy I once went hiking with and I interviewed, and I know him quite well. Zbigniew Brzezinski bragged that we gave the Soviets their Vietnam. He bragged about this, our support of the Mujahideen. And this was not normal to the Muslim religion. It was not normal to people in different ways. Go to Indonesia, you don't have this. What it all had to do was stoking these flames. The people who attacked us on 9/11, 15 of them came from this Arab government that we like more than anyone else, Saudi Arabia. The money came from there. Bin Laden came from there. And the 4 non-Saudis are people who actually were volunteering. They wanted to go fight in Chechnya against the Russians. And they couldn't get in, and they were convinced, oh, let's go after the U.S. And the brains of the whole thing is a guy who went to North Carolina University, was not known for having particular animus to the United States. It's blowback to our policies. It's our interfering in the countries. You know, my 5 biggest lies, actually my son wrote, I robbed some of the credit. But in that book we make the point. Saddam Hussein, that Iraq was the one place where Al-Qaeda could not operate in that region. And he was a sworn enemy of it. Now what have we done to Iraq? We've created this incredible religious fratricide. We have 50 Muslims killed the other day just for praying by Shiites. And Shiites killed all the time. So we've created a great deal of madness in the world. And to be indifferent to it, to not talk about it, to not be critical in thinking about it, is really to be immoral, deeply immoral. We are what Graham Greene warned about, the quiet American. We claim we know everything. We have the attention span of a flea. We are not interested in countries the second we're not bombing them. Our policies are totally contradictory. Think of Syria, for God's sake. We're now we have to go get this army. Where did this army come from that's now in Iraq? They were the people we were supposed to be backing in Syria. And they people got their money from Saudi Arabia. So all I'm saying is on the foreign policy thing, you know, don't trust leaders. Democrats or Republicans. And Democrats happen to be worse than Republicans in some ways because they can't do what Nixon did with the opening to China and with his detente with the Russians, Soviets. Because Nixon knew he couldn't be red-baited. The Democrats are always frightened of being red-baited, of being weak, and so you have Hillary Clinton now trying to act like she's Margaret Thatcher. And let's go get them. And so we have to be wary. And if there's a reason for progressive Democrats, the reason I love this club and many others in this state is because they raise these questions. And so I want to throw out two more that I think are important, and then I'll stop. And one is the question of, well, I just finished a book and handed it in yesterday, on the surveillance state, and that was mentioned before. And we're going to have to recognize, I don't know if you read James Risen, the discussion in Maureen Dow's column, where he said Obama has been the worst on this in modern times. Here is our Democratic administration trying to put James Risen in jail, New York Times Pulitzer Prize winning reporter, because he dared tell the truth about our screw up in Syria and other things we've done. And he won't reveal his source. And Barack Obama has gone after 3 times as many people as all presidents combined